preparing to do our second Ward F Community Forum community meeting, people. How's everyone doing on this beautiful Thursday evening? It's your brother, Educational Gilmore, alongside the Ward F Community Forum team. Everyone's here. Natalia, Chris Perez, Allison, Alika, Tony Perkins, Michael Griffin, and everyone here. So please hit that share button and oh wow, goodness gracious, we got about 20 some people tuned in already. That is a beautiful thing. Please hit that share button because we're here to engage the community on a plethora of issues today. We're going to be focusing on certain issues, and we have several individuals that will be presenting as it relates to things that's going to enhance the community, enhance the quality of the life, and most importantly right? The most important thing is providing the information, people. Education is key. That's the name, Educational Gilmore. So without further ado, I do want to welcome Katie Brennan and thank her for, giving us her time to help inform us on affordable housing. Katie, can you hear me out there, young lady?
Yes, I can.
How you doing? Thank you for joining us, young lady. Thank you for joining us. I'll let you do your due diligence and introduce yourself to the people, and you can let them know what you will be covering and what you'll be talking about. So the floor is yours at this juncture, young lady.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Katie Brennan. I am currently a resident of Ward E, but I'm moving to the BC border in about a week. And I'm sorry that I couldn't be there with Educational Analika tonight because I'm on an in-between zone right now between moves, but I'm thrilled to be with you here tonight. By day, I am the Chief of Staff at the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency. What that is, every state has a housing finance agency. It's the place where first-time home buyer, down payment assistance, that kind of stuff is provided, as well as the money, the funds, the credits, the mortgages that make multifamily affordable housing, among other things that we do. So affordable housing is my life. It's what I do. Tonight, I'm coming to you as a community member, not in my official state capacity, but we're here for a kind of 101 on affordable housing. What is it? And I hope to be pretty brief so that we can have lots of questions if that's possible. So
this is essentially
great.
A very hot topic in our community.
It is, and this is something I love to talk about, and it can be pretty wonky, so I look forward to the questions. All right, thanks. Okay. What is affordable housing? That's the million-dollar question. So simply, affordable housing is a home that you can afford. Affordable is going to be different for people who make different amounts of money. And to that end, there's no singular definition. However, typically when you hear people toss around the term affordable housing, what they mean is a rent or a mortgage where you're not paying more than 30% of your income. So what that means is if you make $100 a month, you shouldn't be paying more than $30. That scales. And the reason why that 30% is because that is generally enough money that you'll have funds left over to pay for transit, to get on the path, to do whatever you need to do, buy groceries. So you shouldn't spend more than 30%. It's a target, 30% of your income on your rent. Now, affordable housing. There are, of course, units and apartments and homes that are just naturally that way. I can afford my home. I hope that you can afford your home. But usually what people mean is there are buildings where the entire thing is considered affordable. There are buildings that are considered some apartments at market rate. So that's just as high as anybody will pay on the market, and that there are some units that are for various levels of targeted incomes. There's also units or houses that are scattered site. So that just means it's individual apartments, it's individual houses all over the place, all over the neighborhood, all over the city. Go to the next one, Alika. Oop, there we go. I'm going to spend just a moment on public housing. A lot of the times people use affordable housing kind of interchangeably. And I think part of that confusion is that, at least in my world, affordable housing often means the way that something was financed, which what does that matter to anybody? What matters is what the rent is, and they don't care necessarily where the money came from to build it. But so public housing is owned by a government entity. In Jersey City, that's the Jersey City Housing Authority. It's part of HUD, the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development. So the Jersey City Housing Authority has public housing buildings all around the city. They also oversee what people usually call Section 8. Technically, that program is called Housing Choice Vouchers. So if you hear people say Housing Choice Vouchers, that's what they mean, Section 8. The name section 8 is the regulatory section of what made that. It's not actually the name of the program. So if you ever hear someone say housing choice vouchers, that's what they mean. In public housing, the tenant pays 30% of their income toward rent, and then HUD pays for the rest, either to a building if it's a public housing building, or to the landlord if it's a voucher, if it's a Section 8 voucher. So if I make $100 a month, I'm going to be paying $30 to the housing authority or to my landlord, and HUD picks up the rest. Vouchers have a cap. HUD determines what they think is the fair rent in the area, and then you have to go find an apartment that's at that level or lower, and then you pay your 30% and HUD picks up the rest. If you could go to the next slide, please. Affordable housing is different. So while affordable housing and public housing sometimes work together, usually affordable housing is built by a private developer. It's built and owned by a private company. It could be for-profit, nonprofit, but it's private. And while they target that 30% of that you shouldn't be paying more than 30%, it's set rents. So again, if I live in public housing and I make $100 a month, I'm going to pay $30. If it's an affordable housing building, they're going to say this unit is $500 a month. This unit is $1,000 a month. It's going to be a set rent, just like anything that you would find on Zillow or Craigslist. And those rents are targeted to different area median incomes. So AMI, and this comes up a lot in all of the ordinances and everything that's around town, area median income is they take an average of all the incomes in a designated area, and it's almost always a whole county or city. It's rarely a targeted neighborhood. And they say the average median income is X. They'll say it's $50,000. So if you are 60% of area median income, 60% is usually what we mean when we talk about affordable housing. So they'll say, I think that $500 a month is an affordable rent for someone in this area at 60% of AMI. So the rents are targeted at various income levels in the building, and the rent that you pay is determined by family size and the apartment size. So I'll show an example of that in a second. So if I have a 100-unit building, I might have 50 units that are for 60% of area median income, and then I would have 25 units that are for 80% of area median income, and the final 25 units might be for 30% of area median income. So you're at or below that. And those ranges often get referred to as 30 or under is very low income, under 60 is, you know, low income, and up to 80 is kind of the moderate, because 100% AMI would be average, right? So anything under average are levels of affordable housing. All right, so that's kind of confusing. Let's go to the next slide and you can see an example. I know this is very small, but I figured since everyone was on, this is digital, you can zoom it or you can get the slides later, whatever it may be. And I should say that all of this is available online. All of this is public information. This I pulled off of njhousing.gov, my agency's website. So this is what I mean. If this is a building that's targeting 50% of area median income, let's look at the second section, rent by bedroom size. So if it's a 2-bedroom and it's targeted at 50% of area median income, you'll see that that rent is $1,110. If it's a 1-bedroom, they can't charge more than $925 a month. So these are the caps. These are the highest rent that a developer could make that apartment. Now, what I meant by determined by family size is if you are one person and have one income, that's a lot different than if there's 2 incomes. Or if you are one person with 3 kids, you know, you have 3 kids to support. And so they'll let you make a little bit more money because you are supporting more people than if it's just one. So that's why on the top, you can see income at 50%. If it's just one person and you're applying for that 50% unit, you can't make more than $34,550. However, if you have 3 kids, like I said, you could make $49,300. This is why it's really hard when we talk about the area median income limits and just the income limits and the size of the units and everything, because it's not fixed. It's dependent on how many people are in your family that want to rent the apartment. It depends on the bedroom size. It depends on the income targets. And most affordable housing buildings have a mixture of affordable targets that they're trying to hit. So you could, if you're applying for something that's at or below the 30%, they may only have 10 apartments for that income range. And if they all get rented up, then they're only going to have units at or below 60%. And those are a fixed rent. You know, they might be charging $900, and unlike public housing, where no matter what your income is, it's 30%, in affordable housing, you have to show that you can pay what that rent is going to be every month. So that's why getting the right target of units really matters, because they have to support the building, but obviously they want to meet the needs of the community. And affordable housing is very much in demand. They always rent up. There's almost always a waiting list immediately. And there's not enough government resources in the world to fund all the units, which is why it's really important that the market help create some of these affordable units. So we can go to the next slide. Inclusionary. So this is the this is the real buzzword around Jersey City these days. And I want to say for a second, just let my housing nerd flag fly. New Jersey is very interesting because we have something that almost nowhere else in the country has, and we have a constitutional requirement to include every town has to have their fair share of affordable housing. However, most of the urban areas are exempt from this, including Jersey City, but everywhere else has inclusionary zoning. Everywhere else has to have a target of affordable units that they have to create. So what Jersey City is talking about is something that almost everywhere has in New Jersey, and many places around the country have it, but that the entire state does it in New Jersey is very unique. So what it means is when the building is required to include some apartments affordable to people under a certain income threshold. Usually it's under 80 or 60% of AMI. So it can be on a building by building basis. It can be a ordinance where it's a whole area or the whole city or anything that's new or requesting a variance. You can write it however you'd like, but it's a requirement that the building has to include these affordable units. You see things get targeted at 80 to 120. So basically median income. Sometimes that gets called kind of middle income housing. Sometimes it gets called workforce housing. Workforce housing doesn't really mean anything and everyone uses it differently. But if you hear that, that's probably what somebody's referring to. In inclusionary buildings, it's usually about 10 to 20% of the building that's required to be affordable. And sometimes the developer, unless they're mandated to do it, is doing the affordable housing requirement so that they can go up another floor, or they get to make their building a little bit wider or larger. People say that's the building envelope. So they increase density because then they feel like they're making up the return, basically, on their investment. But when you have a mandatory ordinance, all the buildings that get constructed have to do it. The idea of this is that you could have a building right down on the waterfront that you would never be able to afford to buy that land and build an affordable housing development, because the rents just wouldn't pay the mortgage. It just wouldn't pay for itself because it'd be so expensive to build. But if you have an inclusionary ordinance, then that luxury building gets built, but they are required to have, say, 10% of the building affordable, then that market luxury developer is paying for the creation of affordable apartments. So this is what I mean of that, the government alone cannot, or as it stands right now, we don't have enough resources or funds to do this. And so regardless of where somebody's developing a building, they would include affordable housing, and that helps the market, particularly in high cost areas like Jersey City, get affordable housing built for everyone in every ward all across the city. So inclusionary, like many things that I've talked about, kind of means a lot of different things. At its base level, it always means that it's a mix of incomes. It includes some market rate units, some affordable units. Sometimes this is by an ordinance. Sometimes it's by the financing source. For example, my agency will fund things that are what we just call mixed income. Whether or not there's an ordinance, we'll say, okay, sure, there'll be some really expensive units, and there'll be some at 80%, and there'll be some at 30%. As I just mentioned, sometimes inclusionary is in incentive. The city says, I really want and really value affordable housing. And because I really want affordable housing, I'm going to let you build another floor, or I'm going to give you a pilot. And lastly, the building may be required to have affordable units per a local ordinance. So again, in New Jersey, that constitutional mandate that a lot of towns, the majority of towns have, they are required to zone for the opportunity to have affordable housing. So by nature, they're all doing zoning that can have affordable housing. So if we can scroll to the next slide. All right. The last one that I have, this is the other buzzword that gets talked about a lot these days, off-site. So when a city has a requirement that all developers have to include affordable housing, sometimes there's a provision an off-site provision. This means that instead of including the affordable units in the building, hence inclusionary, they buy out those units. So they pay a fee, usually per unit, of that they were supposed to build, and that goes in to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That means that somebody else will take those funds and they will build those affordable units somewhere else, or the developer could build them offsite somewhere else in a different neighborhood. That's what offsite means. Again, it can be structured a variety of ways, but it just means that the market rate units, it's not a mixed income building. Those affordable units are either not built and they pay a fee, or they were built somewhere else. So it's a lot of information, but that's what I've got, and I am happy to take questions.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Katie. Actually, we were going to save the questions
Oh,
to
that's fine.
all of the presenters are done, but I do want to thank you for at least touching the surface with these different type of affordable and all that, because I'm not even understanding that. But yeah, so that was 101, and hopefully we'll be able to get some questions answered, and we'll move right on to 102. So thank you again.
Very welcome.
So people, we're moving right along. Please have your questions ready. We're gonna move to the public safety portion of the event. I don't want to use that part. Goodness gracious, people, how y'all doing? So we're gonna move to the public safety portion. Me and my brother Tony Perkins, we're going to be discussing the public safety portion, right, people? So let's just get it right into it, man. It's kind of like a hot talk around the whole country, man. How do we bridge community and police? How do we bridge community and police? How does this relationship look? You know what I mean? What does it look like? I know we need commitment on both sides. Right. So that's commitment from the police, and it's also commitment from the community. In your assessment, where do we begin at?
Well, right now, I feel it's kind of tough right now with the climate of everything that's going on. And I think trust has to be developed as far as the community and the police, for starters.
For starters, the trust factor definitely
has to come into play. And just, I'm a little older than you guys, and just me coming up in Jersey City, it was like we knew all of the police, and the police were familiar with all of our families.
Exactly.
So if, for instance, as an example, if one of the kids on the block got in trouble, they didn't have to really arrest the kid. They knew his mother. So they can redirect the situation to the home.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
and put the accountability back where it belongs. Because I remember several times when Ben or Tucker and them, they would run down, oh, I'm telling your uncle, or I'm telling your mom. Even with Schaefer, although he did his job, he was very fair. I remember one time, just right down here, he'll come down, he like, yo, tell boo he know he got a warrant. He gonna turn himself in, or I'm coming to get him. So it was just that relationship and that trust factor that I knew that he wasn't going to do anything shady as it relates to apprehending me for the warrant and things like that. So I want to get back to that level. And I'm of the humble opinion that it has to be a transparent process, right? It has to be a process in which both parties know their obligations. I know there's a lot of tension because we're seeing a lot of things transpiring around the country. And to Jersey City credit, though, I may add, we don't necessarily have the level of excessive force as it is in other countries. I mean, excuse me, I said other countries, in other states where police officers are shooting people in the back or police officers are killing people. We don't necessarily have it to that magnitude here.
And
however,
thank God for that.
Yes, definitely thank God for that. But however, we do have a situation where we must build better relationships. And again, transparency is huge, man. And along the lines of transparency, right? We have to have honest dialogue, people. We have to have honest dialogue. What does honest dialogue look like, right? It's me being honest that there's criminal activity going on in certain places, right? It's me being honest about that. And it's police officers being honest about the process in which they go about apprehending individuals. Is being a police officer a hard job? You can bet your bottom dollar. I can't do it.
Right.
Especially for what they get paid. I cannot do it. However, they have taken the oath.
So you're saying it's the pay, not serving the community?
No, it's a combination of both. I can't do it, but you know, the pay, it kind of makes it a little easier.
Right.
But I mean,
more incentive.
In Jersey City, man, being a cop and can't afford to live, I just can't do it.
Right,
you know, just can't do it.
Let me just point out something real quick. Let's go with the age factor of the police today.
Okay.
Which plays a major part in our community. You know, we walk up and down the streets of Jersey City. You know, this is our home, and we see younger police officers.
I love that though.
I do too.
I love the fact, and I'll take it further outside of the age demographic and the ethnic demographic, right? I'll take it a step further. It feels good when I see a classmate or a teammate,
right,
or someone from a community social group being a police officer. Right. So that communication that we're talking about, the honest communication, is there because there's a level of familiarity.
Right. And comfort.
And exactly.
Comfort.
Yeah. And that's huge, because I'm of the opinion that our first encounter with police, or our encounters with police, should not be an apprehension type of situation. It should just be a mirror. How you doing? What's going on? How's that? Or, hey, I remember such and such. More of a dialogue, right?
Yes.
So with that being said, we know and understand that things just don't work out overnight. It just,
not at all.
That's just the way life is.
Right. It's
you know,
life,
life.
some time.
Exactly. So we have to work through the process, right? So just because an officer may have done something that the community don't believe was necessary, or someone in the community done something that the police believe that they're creating tension or whatever, we still have to work through the process, right? It's one incident should not kill the relationship of the community and police, because this is the harsh reality, right?
Let's not charge everybody twice.
This is true.
Right.
This is definitely, we can't charge them twice.
Can't charge them twice.
But the harsh reality is that we both want we both want the same thing. We want to be in a safe community, and they want the community safe because they're getting paid to do it, and that's their job. Right. So in essence, we both want the same exact thing. So we have to work through the process. And again, honest communication on both parts is me as a community advocate and community leader, is being honest, right, with my anger towards police. Right. Why am I angry at police? And me being honest that my past conflicts with police should not deter the advancement of community and police relations. You know, that's being honest. Being honest that there's pre-existing conditions. Right. You know what I mean? And subsequently, the officers have to be honest too, because there's this, how can I say this? There's this, I don't want to say as a cultural norm, but there's this situation where some officers, because of their background and their upbringing, they may have been bullied in school, and they get their first dose of power, and they want to, you know, utilize it for unethical things or things unbecoming of the conduct of a police officer. Again, that's honest conversation. It's not pinpoint, it's not targeting. That's honest conversation, and that's honest dialogue. I literally hope, right? And I'm working towards it tooth and nail to mend this relationship, because listen, if someone robbed my house, guess who I want to see?
You want to see the police.
Exactly.
That's right. But let's just think about it. At the end of the day, they're all human. They're human, just like us.
That-
So they might wake up on the wrong side of the bed.
Yeah, it's possible.
You know,
It's definitely
now
possible.
we create a displacement environment because whatever they had going on in the morning, they take it out on what's going on out in the community.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So, and then on us as citizens,
what we going
also,
through,
right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Because I ain't gonna lie, yo, I remember sometimes like when especially when fortunately for whatever reason I don't get pulled. Haven't been pulled over in I don't know how long.
lucky,
But
lucky.
every time I get pulled over, when I used to get pulled over, I just had this negative disposition, like, why do he pulling me over? I ain't do nothing.
Right.
Like, why is he pulling me over? And that's because of the broken relationship I had with police officers. But the harsh reality is, again, we need them. And my best friend is a cop. You know, my family members are cops. And at the end of the day, although they're cops, before they're anything, they're human beings.
That's right.
They are human beings. So we must work through the process. And what are some benefits of coming out of working through the process? The first benefit, right? The first benefit, I hear police say this all the time, namely captains and top prosecutors and stuff. Mr. Gilmore, we just can't get information for the community. Nobody wants to talk to us.
Right.
Because we don't trust you.
It's a trust factor.
It's a trust factor.
And then you know, a lot of kids and people are still living by that street code.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
that no snitching.
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, you know, it's pros and cons to not snitching.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because if it's not directly affecting us, our family per se, we're just totally silent.
So, yeah.
But the minute it comes home,
all of a sudden,
you know what I mean?
your whole
Right.
disposition changes.
Right. So
yeah, you're right though. That's definitely great.
So you know, all of that plays a part. You know, the
But
trust factor.
I could tell you one thing: the number one benefit is the ability to live in harmony, man, and the ability to listen. People, I do all of this community activism, and all of this stuff as it relates to enhancing the community, but I don't condone violence. And as much as I think that mental health is real, I'm also in belief that individuals must receive punishment as well as treatment for their misdeeds. Like you just have to do it.
Yeah.
So those are some of the benefits we can get from stronger police and community relations.
Just feeling safe.
Now, the community commitment, right? There comes a point in time when we have to stop going like this or taking a picture like this and watch the other three point back at us, right? There has to be some level of commitment on the behalf of the community, right? Don't tell me that you call the cops for loud music and your nephew downstairs selling drugs. You see what I'm saying? It comes a point where we have to be accountable and we have to have some level of community equipment. Don't tell me that you have complained about officers and you don't know the commander in the district in which that officer work at.
But you know, that's what we're known for stuff like that.
That's my whole point. Like we have to break that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Just because something has been done for a long period of time doesn't make it right.
And it doesn't have to go on.
And it does exactly.
Right.
It doesn't have to go on. So we have to know these commanders, build relationship with these commanders. All of them, well, I don't know with COVID right now because of the situation, but I'll tell you one thing, the commander in the East have been doing several meetings. So people get to learn your commander, go to these community meetings, get on a email thread, try to create that dialogue, because I'm telling you now, like all cops are not bad. I'm going to tell you that right now. All cops are not bad.
It's imperative that we do make these meetings, and so we have to make these meetings and just the fact of just knowing what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We constantly say, I don't know, but the thing about it, and we make these complaints about the community, about loitering and stuff like that, children loitering in front of people's property and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, you weren't at that meeting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So stuff like that is important, and it's important that we make these meetings.
Yeah, that's definitely, and also subsequently by us going to these meetings, and us being in a community. And then we have to understand the dynamic of the community is drastically changing, right? We're the ultimate melting pot in the entire country. I would even make the argument the entire world. You know, we're the ultimate melting pot. So we have to bring our neighbors up to speed who just moved in the community, you know, to inform them on how do they begin to build these relationships with the police. Because we went to the meeting when that was Tuesday. We went about 2 days ago. We went to the meeting, and subsequently, we may have neighbors that's calling the police on people for doing something they perceive to be breaking the law, when in essence is really not breaking the law. So now, as the commander said, is that they come in and now they got to be a mediator. You know, so we have to bridge the communities, one, and then we have to bridge the relationship with the community and police, right? So how do we invest in working towards a better community?
We have to start communicating.
Right on it.
Start communicating.
I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to say anything else.
Right.
You have to communicate.
You have to communicate.
You have to communicate. Absolutely right. We must communicate, man. Definitely. So moving right along, I know you guys are going to have questions, and ladies are going to have questions, but we're going to try to get through this in an orderly fashion as we try to honor everyone's time. We want to be very respectful of everyone's time. So, before me and Tony get up out of here, right? Before we pass it over, what we do want to talk about, right, is the community assessment and or perspective on standing posts, right, people? So how do we feel about standing posts? And I'm going to try to make a effort to meet with each commander or the community liaison in every district, just to try to assess and see how I can assist in getting these stand posts, you know, more of a mobile rotation, because I'm of the opinion, and a lot of people in the community share this sentiment, that if a police officer is there, if he's, you know, dedicated to that block, he should be able to walk, you know, all the way down, all the way up, over and over, you know, as opposed to just standing right there. Right. Not only that, I can imagine I stood at the meeting again and my legs was hurting. I was standing in the same spot. So
you want these officers basically to cover a little more ground.
Yeah, cover a little more ground.
Right. Okay.
You know, and some of them actually share that sentiment as well. You know, I mean, I don't know who the heck want to stand, like, just be standing there.
Well, I'll say if they are being a little more mobile,
they may deter some things,
right? And they
like,
can actually run into some people
that's doing something,
right?
So yeah,
so that's I think that would be important.
See, I'm of the opinion that they can reduce or deter crime, because if I'm doing criminal activity, and people, I'm no angel, I didn't grow up in a church, you know, that's just the reality, and I know and understand that police.
All angels grew up in.
We can allege that. We can allege that all of them grew up in the church. But I'm no angel, and I didn't grow up in the church. So I don't fit the bill at all. Any portion. But if I know and understand that the police is going to be stationed on Astor Place, right? And I'm into criminal activity, guess what I'm gonna do? I do criminal activity everywhere but Astor Place, because I know that they're right there.
Right. And that's the respect factor.
Exactly.
Respect factor.
So, but if they're navigating through the community, so now they're engaged in the community. Hey, how you doing, Mr. Johnson? How you doing? How you doing? They're engaging. Now the neighbors know them. They know what time they come and walk up there or whatever. So they like, hey, come here, officer. I don't know what's going on, but there's been a lot of activity going on over there. So now that the officer walk by, he may be able to observe or anything, you know. So
or just have his presence there.
Just
make a presence.
The presence. That's it. That's all we asking for. So we have to, again, I'm working the kinks out, as well as the team. We're working the kinks out on getting the current standing post assignments, because I'm told that there's different commanders that do different things as it relates to the standing post. You know, some have it this way, some have it that way, some have more versus some not having that many or whatever. But I know it's something we definitely can work on as something we can work on as a collective with the community. I think that'd be great. So that's standard posts being universal, but I know that they differ because I jog in the Heights and I jog downtown, and very seldomly do I see police standing or sitting in a car with the sirens on. And what is this thing with the sirens? And do sirens deter? Do lights deter crime?
I think it's more or less intimidation, maybe.
Oh,
But-
militarized.
But the thing about it is, you know, we're not really intimidated by the police anymore.
This is true.
So I think 10 toes down is what really makes a difference.
Okay.
You know, we need the police on the ground, never mind in the cars and just sitting there relaxing, you know, because that's too relaxed. So if something happens, how can we feel safe with the police just sitting
relaxing?
in the car?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, we just have to, you know, get in tune and get into these meetings with these commanders and these community police liaisons to see how can we better advocate for this, because some cops may want this, and you know the commander may be saying this, or the commander might be like, nobody from the community came and said anything about it, you know, and he wouldn't be lying.
Right.
You know. So we're going to talk more about what are your feelings, the benefits and the setbacks. I do know that one of the benefits is increasing a presence, right? So if I know that a police officer is on Bramhall, Union, Oak, and Virginia, survey or circling a parameter over there, you know, I feel more comfortable as opposed to just having them standing on Union, you know, just chilling like that. I prefer them to move around. So I think we have an opportunity to identify activity that's going on that may be illegal. And the most important stuff, because it's not always illegal activity going on, most importantly, we have the ability to have these officers navigate through the community and talk to the community. That is extremely important.
As communities start to change, those things will start to transpire.
Okay. That's a fair assessment. So that's me and brother TP portion right there. We're going to move to the Ward F community development part 2 with none other than your brother from another, Christopher Perez. So if Chris Perez can come over here, and I'm going to let Chris pretty much navigate this because he don't need this handsome looking man in his screen when he's doing his presentation, taking all his airtime away.
Oh, thanks, Frank. How's everybody doing tonight? Awesome. So we are going to get into some more development. At the first meeting we had, we just kind of touched lightly on development in general, but today we're going to dive a little deeper. When I'm wrapping this up, I'm going to share some links that we shared in the first meeting so that on your free time, you can kind of navigate the zoning map and also some more specifics on the different zones. Today, we're going to go through the R zones. There are about 8 of them, and we're going to kind of touch on them all lightly. There's a lot of information regarding each zone. And so I'm going to touch on them lightly, and in your free time, you should really dive in a little deeper. So one of the things I want to explain that we're not going to go into detail about is a lot of these zones have things called setbacks, but there's so many nuances and specifics for the setbacks that I kind of left that out for tonight. But a setback is really kind of what it sounds like. It's basically how far a structure is from a property line. So a front yard setback would be how far the front of a structure is from the property line. A side yard setback would be how far a structure is from the side property line. Rear yard setback, how far the structure is from the rear property line. Now, these things are all really important. Setbacks are important because the way buildings kind of play off of each other can affect your quality of life. So setbacks are really important in terms of creating space for light, for air, for quality of life. But we didn't really go into the setbacks on the different zones that we're going to talk about tonight, because different building types have different setback requirements. But at the end, I'm going to send you a link, and you can kind of go through and get those details. So basically, we're going to start off with the R1 zone. That is the 1 and 2 family housing district. And basically, this is a district that is kind of scattered all over Jersey City. It used to actually even be downtown, but a lot of the downtown R1 got rezoned to another zone that we're going to talk about. So I like to call this kind of a scatter zone. It's scattered all over Jersey City. You'll find it in the Heights, you'll find it in Greenville, you'll find it in Bergen Lafayette, you'll find it on West Side, a lot of times on the side streets. And it's for 1 and 2 family homes on lot sizes of 25 by 100, maximum of 3 stories in height, and 60% building lot coverage. So what is building lot coverage? Basically, how much of the footprint of the building covers the amount of land in the lot. So if you had a 2,500 square foot lot and you had a 1,250 square foot building, the first floor, that would be 50% lot coverage. You'd be covering half of the land on the lot. So that's just to kind of explain a little bit about what lot coverage is. There's a parking requirement in the R1 zone, is that no parking is actually required if the lot is 50 feet or less in width. But if it's over 50 feet, it's one parking space per unit. Now, there's some other building types that are allowed in the R1 zone. There's houses of worship, schools, government, senior housing. There's, just some other uses that can be used in the R1 zone, but it really depends on how big the lot size is. For houses of worship, schools, government buildings, and senior housing, you have to have a minimum lot size of 100 by 100. And in that zone, if you were to create one of those buildings, you'd be at 50% lot coverage, except for senior housing. Senior housing is allowed to be have a little bit of a bigger footprint, which is 65% lot coverage. And that's also because senior housing is kind of in demand. So they get a little more leniency when we're building senior housing. With houses of worship, you're allowed to go a maximum of 4 stories in the R1, and you have 1 parking space for every 10 people of capacity for that house of worship, church, temple, or what have you. For schools, maximum of 4 stories, 1.5 parking spaces for each classroom. For government uses, any kind of a government building or city building, maximum of 4 stories and 1 parking space for each 1,000 square feet of office space. And then lastly, we have senior housing. So senior housing, like I said earlier, gets a bit of leniency because senior housing is a need. Our older population is increasing, and there is a lot of need there. So they accommodate senior housing with up to 7 stories and 0.2 parking spaces per bedroom. You're also allowed to have nursing homes in the R1 zone. A lot of people don't know this, but you need a pretty large lot size. You need 200 by 100. So 20,000 square feet or larger, and you're allowed to have a maximum of 50% lot coverage. For nursing homes, you can only go up 4 stories, and you're required to have 0.25 parking spaces per bed in the nursing home facility. And lastly, mortuaries. They are allowed in the R1 zone on lots of 100 by 100 or larger, so 10,000 square feet or larger, maximum of 50% building lot coverage. The mortuaries are allowed to be 4 stories tall, and they require 1 parking space per employee and 1 parking space for every 5 square feet of administrative or preparation areas. Now, like I explained earlier, these different uses have different setbacks. Just to be really brief, like the 1 and 2 family homes, they have like a 2-foot and a 3-foot side yard setback, and anywhere from like a 15 to a 35-foot rear yard. It'll be different for nursing homes, mortuaries, and what have you. When we wrap this up, I'll send the link and you can dig into that a little bit more and do some of your own homework. Like I said, the R1 zone is scattered all over Jersey City. In Ward F, it's predominantly in Bergen Lafayette. We're going to move on now to R1A. The next two zones that I'm going to go into are actually subzones that people are not aware of that usually exist in an R1 area. And they were created to preserve some of the housing stock, some of the larger housing stock and the larger lot sizes that are in the R1 zone. So the R1A 1 and 2 family housing district has a minimum lot size of 40 by 100, whereas the typical R1 is 25 by 100. So as you can see, a little bit larger. And as I explained, this zone is intended to preserve some of these larger lot sizes with these larger homes on them. Once again, maximum 3 stories, but this zone decreases to a maximum of 55% lot coverage versus the 60% that's in the traditional R1. This district also requires 1 parking space per unit. And like I said, it's intended to protect these clusters of larger lot sizes and larger homes, the lot sizes being larger than the typical 25 by 100. We don't really have this zone in Ward F. You'll see this in other areas, maybe around Lincoln Park on Gifford and Bentley Avenues. You'll see it in Greenville, on Garfield, where you have Danforth, Linden, and Lembeck intersecting Garfield. And you'll also see a pocket of this on Pearsall and Princeton in Greenville. So that's the R1A district. And then we're going to move on to the R1F district. This is another subzone, usually found somewhere within an R1 zone, a 1 and 2 family housing district. Like the R1A, the minimum lot size is 40 by 100. Once again, this zone is really to discourage demolition of these bigger homes on these bigger lots. Once again, we've got 55% maximum building lot coverage and 1 parking space per unit. The intent of this zone, like I said, is to preserve some of the larger homes on the larger lot sizes. One of the caveats in this zone is there is permission to do 3 family homes, but it's conditional. The conditions fall into a whole bunch of guidelines that restrict the kind of siding you can put on it. You can't put vinyl, you can't put certain kinds of brick. The structure has to have some different design elements to it. Even though it would be a 3 family, it's supposed to look like a 1 family. So 3 families are conditionally permitted in this zone, but they have to satisfy a lot of requirements. You will find this zone in Bergen Lafayette, in Bergen Hill, actually on Summit Avenue going up. You'll also find this in Sherwood Claremont, on Bramhall, Arlington, and Clerk Street. And once again, this is a subzone that was created to preserve some of these larger lot sizes with the larger homes. Now we're going to move into zones that have a little more density in them. So this is the R2 multifamily attached housing district. It allows multifamily townhouses on a minimum lot size of 2,500 square feet. Once again, maximum lot coverage of 60%. And as I had mentioned earlier, that's how much of the first floor footprint covers the amount of land. So you can only cover up to 60% of the lot area with a structure. You're also allowed to have 55 units per acre. So the other zones that we talked about don't really have a units per acre requirement. There is sort of an imputed units per acre in the R1 zone. It lands at around 35, but it's not specifically outlined. But in this R2 zone, it's 55 units per acre. There's no parking required on lots 50 feet or under in width. And then there's 1 parking space for each unit, 3 bedrooms or less, and 1.5 parking spaces for each unit over 3 bedrooms. You're also allowed to have houses of worship, schools, government buildings, senior housing, nursing homes, and mortuaries in this zone. And the guidelines within this zone would be the same as in the R1 zone. So you'd have to reflect back to the requirements in the R1 to satisfy the requirements in the R2. This zone is not typically seen in Ward F. You'll find a pocket of it on Grand Street between Jersey Avenue and Barrow Street, and you'll find it downtown on Steuben Street. We're going to move on now to the R2D mixed-use multifamily attached housing district. No, this is not a play off Star Wars. This is not R2D2. This is Jersey City zoning. The R2D mixed-use zone is to allow mixed-use buildings with commercial and residential. So mixed-use buildings are when you might have like a storefront on the first floor and residents above. It could also play out a little differently. You could have a couple of floors of office space and residential above. That's what mixed use means. It's basically a combination of commercial and residential uses. Maximum of 4 stories is allowed in this zone on lots under 50 feet wide, and you can actually go up to 5 stories on lots over 50 feet wide. This zone is quite generous. It allows you a maximum of 95% building lot coverage. So basically you can cover almost all the lot with a structure in this zone. And this zone was designed to embrace the historic mixed use feeling and vibe of Palisade Avenue in the Heights. They're allowing 75 units per acre in that zone. And there's a residential parking requirement for lots that are 75 feet or wider, and it's 0.5 parking spaces for each 1 or 2 bedroom unit, and 1 space for each 3 bedroom or larger unit. There's also a commercial parking requirement in this zone. Generally, it's 1 space for every 1,000 square feet of office space or commercial space, but you exclude the first 5,000 square feet. So if you had a 6,000 square foot commercial space, you'd only have to have 1 parking space because the first 5,000 square feet are excluded, and that extra 1,000 square feet would require 1 space. Like I said, this zone is actually specific to Palisade Avenue in the Heights. We're going to move on to the R3 zone. So this is the multifamily mid-rise district. This allows mid-rise buildings with commercial and residential, 3 stories to 8 stories tall. You're allowed to have apartment buildings on lots that are 6,000 square feet or larger. So that would be approximately a 60-foot by 100-foot lot. This zone allows, what is it here? 60 to 145 units per acre, but it depends on the lot size. As your lot size increases, your units per acre increases. You can have ground floor parking, and the ground floor parking structure is allowed to actually cover 100% of the lot. So you might see some of these kind of looking structures in downtown, maybe, where you'll see like there's a bulky parking structure at the base, and then a tower kind of goes up a little bit from it. So that parking structure on the first floor can cover 100% of the lot area, but the subsequent floors, the floors 2 and up, can cover a maximum of 65% to 75% of the lot area, depending on the lot size. There's basically a chart that dictates how big the lot is and how much lot coverage you can have. Parking is required at a space of 1 space per unit. You will find this zone Pacific to Woodward, from Grand to Carbon and Ash, and you'll also find this actually predominantly along Bergen Avenue. We're going to move on now to the R4 zone. This is the multifamily high-rise district. This zone allows mixed-use buildings, which again is commercial residential, 8 stories tall up to 110 feet. This zone allows apartment buildings on lots, once again, of 6,000 square feet or larger, and it allows a density of 60 to 105 units per acre, but it depends on the lot size. The ground floor parking, once again, can cover 100% of the zone, 100% of the lot size. So there doesn't have to be any yards, but the subsequent floors, floors 2 and up, can have a maximum coverage of 65 to 75% building lot coverage, depending on how big the overall lot is. In this zone, your parking requirement is 1/2 a space per unit. So if you have 2 units, you need 1 space. If you had 4, you need 2 spaces. You'll find this zone typically on Corneliuson Avenue, to Florence Street, from Bright to Montgomery Streets, and you'll also find this along Bergen. Now we're going to go into the R5 low-rise residential mixed-use district. If you remember earlier, we were talking about the R1 and how it's kind of scattered all over Jersey City. And there is actually, or was rather, a bit of R1 in downtown around Hamilton Park in the vicinity. They decided to rezone that to an R5 because the R1 zone really wasn't accommodating the kind of density that was downtown. You have a lot of, 4-story structures that might have 4 or more units in it, and the R1 zone was holding you to 1 or 2 units. So what was being built there wasn't really conforming to what was existing. So they created this R5 zone, and basically it's, like I said, around Hamilton Park and village neighborhoods. The intent of this zone is to replicate the existing density and housing stock that's there that the R1 zone wasn't really allowing to be built. You can have residential buildings up to 4 stories and 42 feet tall on streets that are 60 feet wide. So a 60-foot right-of-way is the street and also the sidewalk, because all of that is public land. So the 60 feet isn't just the width of the street curb to curb, it's actually the width from property frontage to property frontage. So that also includes the sidewalks. So if you have a block with a public right-of-way of 60 feet, you're allowed to build 4 stories. If you have, hold on, I lost track there, sorry people. You can also go up to 3 stories with a 4th floor totaling 42 feet, but you need a setback minimum of 15 feet from the front of the building if your street is under 60 feet wide. This zone also allows a little bit of commercial. So you can have retail sales of goods and services on the ground floor on Brunswick, Mammoth, and Cole. You'll see that there's already locations that are like that. So this zone was to kind of encourage and replicate development that looks what currently exists in that area. This zone allows 80 units per acre, and it allows 70% building lot coverage. It can vary depending on the lot size. This zone requires parking of 0.5 space per unit, but no parking is required on lots under 40 feet wide or lots that front Brunswick, Mammoth, or Cole streets. So we went into a little bit, and I hope I didn't make you guys dizzy, because zoning is a lot of information, and that's why we want to make sure that we start to educate the community about the nuances of zoning, because it can be very intimidating. I'll be honest, it's intimidating to me sometimes, but I assure you, once you kind of play with it and dig into it a little bit, do some homework, you'll start to get some working knowledge of it, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable and less intimidated by it. This link here that we're going to share in the chat is something we shared in our last meeting, and this outlines the zoning district. So all the stuff that we kind of touched on today is in there, and with specific details about setbacks and all the other details that we didn't go into. I didn't want to make you guys too crazy. This is a lot of information. And this next link here is the Jersey City zoning map. So when you have some free time, you should check into this. You'll scroll around and it shows how the zones play out all over Jersey City. You can get an idea of what the zoning is around you, and then you can reference the previous link to get the details about what that zone includes. I just wanted to let you know about one more thing. We are, the city is redoing the master plan. Actually, specifically the land use portion of the master plan and the open space portion of the master plan. A master plan is essentially a city's plan gaining towards the future and how we want this city to look and feel in terms of density, bike lanes, all kinds of things. So the city is working on revising the master plan for land use and open space. They are having an in-person event at Berry Lane Park this Saturday, and you can sign up and reserve a seat. The seating is limited, but if you click on this link, you can reserve a spot. I believe they're having 4 sessions on Saturday where you'll be able to walk through some of the ideas and proposed changes to the master plan in terms of land use and open space. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to go through this development information. Like I said, it can feel a little intimidating, and that's why we included these links, so you can kind of hop on this stuff in your free time. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions, and we'll keep on empowering you with knowledge so that you can make your best decisions about how you feel about development. You know, this is really all about empowering and educating our community about what is allowed in the zones that they live around. So when there's proposed development, they can make educated decisions about whether or not they want or not want a proposed development, or how they can negotiate to come to a happy place. We're now going to hand this off to Natalia. Natalia's gonna present some information about quality of life. I hope to see you guys soon. Have a good night.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was amazing. I'm so impressed. We have a lot of neighborhood experts, who ended up by activism, and just curiosity sometimes, and sometimes necessity, getting to know all of these issues that we now would like to share with you. And this is really what it's all about. That's why the premise of by the community, for the community, which is from us to you, so that we can all be well informed and know what to do when things arise. And so thank you so much, Chris, and my other fellow presenters. My name is Natalia Ioffi. I'm a Jersey City resident for over 15 years now. I live in Ward F, and this is going to be part 2 of the quality of life presentation. Last time we covered an app called See-Click-Fix, which dealt with infrastructural issues in your neighborhood. And we talked about what it meant to be, what it means to be your neighborhood Superman, right? We don't want to wait for the Superman. We want to be our own Superman. We want to take care of our neighborhood ourselves. And we want to know what tools there are available in order for us to do that. So one of the things that we usually deal with are infrastructural problems, and that has to do with, fixing a broken street light or sewer issues. Now I want to talk about something a little different, which also pertains to quality of life, and that is quality of life as it deals with issues of public safety, property and persons, and other things which you may not have even thought of. So I will once again talk about a mobile app, which our solutions are not limited to these tools, but they do exist. And one of our goals is to just let you know that they exist and how to navigate them and how to use them for your benefit. So this app is called WOTS, WOTS, and it stands for Word on the Street. And it's a free app that you can download on your phone. One thing you'll have to do is provide your phone number. It'll give you a code to enter, and you can get started. So that's all you need in order to create a profile. And once you enter the location in question, so to speak, right? If you see something and want to say something and you're not sure who to call, and this is one of the things that we've encountered in our community, especially with speaking to the police, speaking to different departments, is that often people, they want to solve an issue, but they don't know which department to call, and they struggle navigating through all these different city departments. Things like the WhatsApp or the See-Click-Fix, provided that they work properly, they allow you to have like a one-stop shop. And by reaching out through the app, you're able to that information gets disseminated to the appropriate department without you having to wonder and struggle, well, who's responsible for this particular issue? Is it the police? Is it Department of Public Works? Is it resident response? Is it quality of life? So this is just one example. And again, hopefully, when and if it works, technology, as wonderful as it is not always foolproof, but we are trying to rely on it. So this is one of your options. So I want to tell you how to navigate it. So once you're in the WhatsApp, and if you've created your profile, and if you want to indicate an issue that has a problem, you have to indicate your location or the location about which you are reporting. And then it will offer you 3 main categories. Those categories are vehicular, that have to do with any type of vehicle issue, quality of life, which is pretty generic, but we'll go into that, and then crime. And crime can also cover a vast number of things. So when it comes to vehicles, the app kind of breaks it up also into subcategories as well. It could be accident related, it could be parking related, or it could be just traffic related. And those can be so different. And it has a great example of showing that if it's a parking issue, clearly, then the parking department will be contacted. So it's not a police issue per se, but it could also be a public safety issue. For example, if you see a vehicle blocking a fire hydrant, that's an automatic fire hazard, right? So if you see that in your neighborhood, you can, by using this app, click a picture, and that also lets the officers responding, whether it's the parking enforcement or the actual police, depending on who's going to take care of that, see which vehicle it is, what is the location, what is their license plate, instead of wondering, if it's a phone call, sometimes it's harder to get that information across. So that's just one example. And of course, if the car is blocking the fire hydrant, that can obstruct a fire department's entry into the moment of need. Another great example is abandoned vehicle. That is a blight issue for our neighborhoods. It happens often, especially in semi-industrial areas. And you can see a car sometimes standing in a spot for months, years even. It may not have a license plate. It may just be completely abandoned. It can become an attraction to litter, to all sorts of illicit activities, which you do not want in your neighborhood. So be a good neighbor and, report it and just have it taken away, that it doesn't belong in your neighborhood, because we take part of this initiative is to take ownership for where we live and make it better, not just for ourselves, but for our fellow neighbors. And you could see it on your screens. Some of the other examples are traffic. I would advise you to just use your judgment and common sense. A lot of these examples and categories are given, quite honestly, can merit a phone because they're so specific, such as a drunk driver. Like, I can't imagine using a mobile app to, report a drunk driver in a split second. So use your judgment in that moment. If the situation merits kind of a photo submission and it could take time, by all means do that. Or if you feel that it's an immediate issue that merits a phone call to the appropriate department, then do that. And I will go over those telephone numbers at the end. So just use your discretion, but it's important to know what kind of categories are available to you and what kind of things that you are able to report if you wanted to. And so that was traffic, kind of the observational. Quality of life and other things. That's not vehicular and not necessarily crime, but also could be somewhere in between. And it covers things like disputes, illegal behavior, public nuisances, and other. What are the things that can annoy us in the neighborhood that we feel desperately that we need help with, that we feel compelled to call someone, whether it's the police, the fire department, please help? Things like loud music. It seems like such a little thing, and not to be nosy, but right now we're in this situation where we're all still semi-quarantined and our children are learning from home and we are working from home and everybody's confined to their spaces. And so something like loud music can literally disrupt an entire household, their livelihoods and their educational process all at the same time. So this can give you an opportunity to address that quickly without wondering, who do I call? It's just a great example. There's behavior in your neighborhood that you may be a witness to that you don't want to necessarily confront. And this is also kind of a safe way for you to address it. If you see some kind of a lewd behavior, you feel illegal behavior, but you don't want to, approach and confront. In fact, the police officers will also advise you don't confront if you can, if you can help it. If you feel it's serious enough, and if you feel that you can take a photograph that may inform the responding department in some productive way, do that. This will give you a way to do this safely. Things like harassment, loitering. Again, it doesn't have to involve you. It can involve somebody else. If you want to be helpful, if you see, someone else in trouble and you want to help them out, but you're on a work call and, this is your way to be a good neighbor without necessarily stepping outdoors and getting in the middle of things. You see some of the other things in front of you, things like gambling on the street, lewdness, street games, underage drinking. That's a problem. If you see it, you can say something. Fireworks, that was a big issue in the summer. There's several notices went out about fireworks. Again, you can address it through this app. And finally, crime. Crime In things like a burglary or a robbery, which are given here as examples, or finding of a weapon or finding of drug paraphernalia, again, I would just advise to use your judgment and your common sense, because things that you feel are stationary situations that can merit a simple photograph, and again, submission of this report via this app, that's fine if you feel confident about that. But if you feel, again, that the situation is emergency or like it's situation in motion, the best thing could be to just call the police and advise them as to what exactly is going on and the direction in which it's moving, depending on the situation. But it's interesting that they do offer things like you can submit a request about a missing person, a wellness check, which if you're concerned about an individual, they don't have to be related to you, but if you have a neighbor that you're concerned about and you want to request a wellness check on them, especially now in times of COVID, if you don't see your neighbor leaving the house and you know they're not in good health, this is your way of taking care of your fellow humans, by being a good neighbor and by kind of letting the world know that they may be in trouble. And the category of other, which also kind of touches upon different things that they overlap in some ways. Damage to property, again, drug paraphernalia, I touched upon that. So it overlaps crime and other, some of these things that it's interesting that are here, it wouldn't even occur to you that they could be a problems that could be reported. And another reason it's good to be acquainted with it is because from communicating with police during their meetings, we realize that a lot of issues that get brought to the police are not really legal issues. For example, a homeless person sitting on a park bench, that he's not doing anything illegal. And that's something that we've kind of witnessed conversations taking place about. The police officers would tell you, listen, in certain hours of the day, these people have the same rights as you. Do not call the police and ask them to remove a homeless person for enjoying a park bench. That's why lists like these and applications like these, they give you examples of what is considered a problematic behavior that you can report. So if you don't see your issue here, I mean, obviously you could always inquire, but it also gives you an idea of what is and isn't kind of reportable necessarily. And so if ideally all goes well and your case is successfully submitted, you will get a notification on your phone that your request has been submitted, the officer is being looked for and has been assigned, and then you will get a final status saying that your case has been addressed and closed successfully. And that is the perfect scenario. However, like I said, because technology is not foolproof, we want to be able to also have a phone number to call for various situations. And so I did want to provide you with the department telephone numbers, such as the Parking Authority, which is 201-547-5538, the Jersey City Police Department non-emergency line. And that is for things that, again, have happened or not emergency situations. It connects to all the districts in Jersey City, regardless if you live in South, West, North, or East. You call 201-547-5477, and they will connect you to the necessary department. You give them your information, be prepared to give your name, your address, your telephone number, because they will need that to call you back. And the resident response for other types of quality of life issues. And of course, if you are experiencing an emergency or a threat to your life or property, something of immediacy, call 911. Don't go through apps, don't go looking for non-emergency lines. If you're in danger, always call 911. And that's about it. And really, again, one of the quality of life is such a vast topic. It could be infrastructural, it could be safety related. And our goal here is to bring to you as many tools that are available out there, particularly in Jersey City, so that you can help yourselves, you can help your neighbors, and you can be your neighborhood's own Superman. So thank you again. I want to thank my fellow presenters. I think this is a wonderful initiative. You know, when the community stands up for itself, it's a powerful thing, you know, and I think that when people who really, really care about their neighbors and the city come together to bring forth the information that can empower you, make you stronger, make you smarter about, you know, where you are and what you need to do in order to take care of yourselves, take care of your city, take care of your home, protect it, then it's a beautiful thing. Thank you again, and I'm giving it back to Mr. Gilmore.
Hey, good people, thank you very much for tuning in. We had a real detailed discussions. We're trying to do our best to address issues in the community, bring forth information in the community, and we're just trying to make this a better community. We're doing this us thing, right? We're bringing everyone together, all walks of life, and we just doing this us thing. So we did get some questions, right? So let's look and see here. We got some questions, and if you have any other questions, if you could send them in, we're going to try to answer every question that was proposed in here. So I see Ms. Bryant have a question. Where can we find a PowerPoint of the affordable housing? Okay, that's something we can definitely get that to you. I see you put your email in the chat, so that's a beautiful thing. I know that that affordable housing is a real hot topic. That's affordable housing is a real hot topic. So who else have any questions? CP, where's your truancy tracking form? That's Ibn. Who else? I see Allison have responded to a lot of people that had the questions. I want to see if I can fill the questions from the Zoom. So if we have any questions from the Zoom, hold on, let's go up here. I do see some questions in the chat. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. Blah, blah, blah. If you have any questions, we have no parking in Ward F. This is true, man. Parking is a hot topic. We're going to try to address parking in an upcoming meeting, but parking is scarce for everybody, for not just Ward F. You know, it's scarce for everybody, and that's definitely something that we're going to try to figure something out. I know at first, during the midst of this pandemic, we were allowing individuals to park into the school parking lots. But since school has somewhat resumed, that option is no longer open. But I think there is an opportunity there for the school to, one, get revenue, and for two, for the community to get some relief on some parking. So we're definitely going to be talking about parking. I saw on Palisades a property that has no, hold on, that has no parking, and it's 4 stories under construction. That is in the R zone. Is this allowed? Who talked about the R zone? Was that Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring Chris back in here, as I'm not really versed on the different type of zones and things that's going on. So this gentleman or young lady, Mayor.
Okay.
I saw on Palisades a property that has no parking and is a 4-story under construction. This is in the R2D zone. Is this allowed?
So I'm gonna try to look it up right now. If we can't pull it up right this minute, we'll get back to you a little later.
Okay.
But I'm gonna try.
We definitely,
We're gonna try to look into it right now.
We definitely want to look into that.
Palisade's pretty long, so I know that it doesn't cover every square inch of Palisade. So give us a couple of minutes and we'll get you an answer either live or right after we wrap up.
Okay. Definitely keeping that. Okay, we got some more comments here. I'm not really good at this daggone Zoom thing. I use that app and the police never respond. Okay. I use for drug users and noise, called them to the ladies. The lady stated, oh, well, we just came in after the holidays. You have to wait. So the app, is that the WOTS app they was talking about? So listen, people, it's several things, right? We have to make sure we have a record of everything. So if you call the WOTS app and you didn't receive any response, that's why I was saying those meetings with those captains are instrumental, because you will have the ability to email them. And also if you call, all of that is recording. So you can actually call for that thing too. So yeah, definitely look into that as well. Charlene said that she used the WOTS app for some things and it wasn't rectified. maybe we need to address how complaints are made and nothing is happening. No, you're absolutely right. That's why come on, get over here, Natalia. That's why I'm saying that we have to try to keep a track record and get things on paper. So if we're making complaints and we're just not following up and we're not, doing our due diligence as it relates to creating the paper trail and making sure this stuff on record, then it's going to be really hard for us to move forward.
Yes, and I just want to add to that. So that's why when I, it's difficult to promote something when it doesn't like work 100%.
Yeah.
Exactly. So my goal is not to like promote this app as a foolproof, thing. It's a tool that exists that when it works can be really great and successful for certain things. But I would advise you to call the non-emergency police department line, specifically, as Frank said, because it goes on the record. And what you will find, even if you do go to the community police meetings, the captain's meetings, and you bring up an issue in your neighborhood, and they will tell you, first thing they will tell you, please call the non-emergency line as often as you can, because every single time you call, it goes on their statistical record, right? And they record the number of phone calls that they receive about problematic issues, problematic, situations, streets, corners, specifically. So the more times that you call, the more chance that you will get a response. It may not happen right away because, whether it's manpower, timing, or whatever, but it's in your favor to just keep calling. Don't give up. That's what kind of my thing. Don't give up.
And also, man, CC the Ward F community page, so we can subsequently follow up as well, because we got to do this thing together. No one person or one entity is going to be able to do this. Parking is a hot topic, people. I understand. We're going to get to parking. I promise you, we are going to cover parking. That might be a whole segment of its own. We will post the slides because there was a lot of information disseminated, and we definitely will post the slides. But in the interest of Katie time, I'm going to unmute Katie because, okay, Katie?
I'm here.
Okay, yeah, because I really want to home in on some things as it relates to this affordable housing. So, Katie, a lot of people are asking for a lot of information. Will you be able to provide links and/or phone numbers or emails or any contacts to the entities that's responsible for disseminating this information?
Sure. So in terms of disseminating this information, there's mine, which is,
Okay.
I can write in the chat.
That would be good.
And I would encourage you all to go to newjerseyhousing.gov because we have, we have $10,000 down payment assistance that's on there and mortgages. We have information about all of our programs. There's also there's all kinds of financing sources all over the place. The issue is that until very recently, Jersey City did not have kind of one source and of where this information would come from, and now they do. Gigi Kazan just moved over and they're starting up this Office of Housing Affordability, but I think it might just be her right now. It kind of happened right before COVID, and because there's Department of Community and Economic Development, but they're really just kind of a funding source, like there's not one entity that's over all of this in Jersey City. And that's part of why it's really complicated to get this out there. There's also something on our website that you'll see at the bottom of the page, or I can link it, which is the Housing Resource Center, which has, it's like Zillow or Craigslist for affordable housing. And I had mentioned to Educational that there was a law that was recently passed that's going to require all these other towns that I was talking about to require every single apartment, whether it is in a standalone building or whether it's an inclusionary, to advertise the affordable units so you know where to find them all in one place across the whole state. The issue is that Jersey City is not required to do that. The Hudson County office makes theirs post there, but Jersey City as of today does not. So there's not one place to go to see in live real time what affordable housing units or even wait lists to sign up on are available at any given moment in Jersey City.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's definitely good to know. Katie, I don't know if you would have the direct access or the answer to this question, but I do want to pick your brain just a little before you go on. What do we need to do to see if these individuals who receive in Section 8 housing can enter into these home choice vouchers?
How do people get the vouchers?
Yeah, no, from the there's a program that's offered through the state, I believe, where you can turn your Section 8 voucher into a homeowner's voucher. Are you familiar with that program?
I am familiar with that, and I don't know offhand
Okay.
Jersey City's availability of how much you can do, but what I would recommend is, so Vivian Brady Phillips, who used to work in the mayor's office and now runs the Jersey City Housing Authority, to ask that there, or I can get back to you all. I can kind of poke around and figure out exactly how you go about that in Jersey City. Yeah,
Well,
I saw someone ask me about city jobs. I work for the state. So I work for the state. I live in Jersey City, and I obviously work with the city all the time, but I don't have offhand that information.
Okay, thank you. Oh, we do have one more question for you, Katie. How often do the captains have me? Oh, no, that's not your question. That's not your.
Natalia can answer that.
But I do want to thank you for joining us. We'll definitely be in contact with you. You have a wealth of knowledge as it relates to the intricacies and complications and it's affordable and market rate and Section 8 and housing and all of these different type of housing subsidies. I'm still trying to figure this stuff out myself, but I do want to thank you for your time, for coming here, presenting with us, and I owe you dinner. I don't know when you're gonna get it, but I do owe you. So I either send you a rain check or we'll figure something out. But again, thank you for joining us, young lady.
I'm happy to anytime.
Okay. So people also, there's a lot of questions still coming in, right? But in the interest of time, what I want you to do is scan the page to sign up for our email so you can receive notifications where you can email questions, comments, or concerns. And like, it's going to take some onus on the behalf of the community to help us, because although this is the Ward F Community Forum and we have a group of individuals that's heading it, this is, make no mistake, this is for the community and it's by the community. So collectively, this is something for all of us. So we have to make sure we're in communication with one another and sending these emails, questions, comments, concerns, and being in communication so we can make sure we address this stuff as best as we could. Chris, do you have anything? Chris, you could come close to me, Chris. Come close to me, Chris.
All right, I'll come close.
There you go.
So we just wanted to get that answer to the person who was asking about the development on Palisade. They had mentioned it was either 360 or 362 Palisade. So each of those addresses are 25 by 100s. So they don't require parking. In that R2D2 Star Wars zone, if we will, you don't have to have parking if your lot size is 50 feet or narrower. So the person didn't seem sure if it was both addresses or one of the addresses, but each of those are 25 feet wide. So they wouldn't require parking, and even if they were combined, they'd still be at 50, so they wouldn't need parking.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we just wanted to get that answer if we could. To the
okay, that's perfect. So we just about done. Kansas Johnson actually said that she works in the housing authority. Okay, that's perfect. So maybe we can reach out to Candace to get some more information on the Section 8 and homeowners and how it relates to transition in that process. See, this is why I love this platform, because we can network together to help
Right.
each other.
Everyone coming together to help each
See how I
other
did
out.
that?
I think
Network
she's my
together
neighbor,
to help each
actually.
other.
I think Candace lives across the street from me.
She
If it's-
do?
Yeah, it's a small world.
It's a
I think
small,
so.
okay. Well, you're short.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
true. That's
man.
why it feels so.
Okay, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Again, send questions, comments, concern, and we're doing this thing together. So be on the lookout for the next Ward F Community Forum meeting, people. Huh? Oh yeah, hold on. Natalia's going to answer a question as it relates to the different forms of captain meetings and when they're held. Natalia.
Hello. So the captain's meeting is a big topic, and we have 4 districts, as you know: North, East, South, and West, and they each have a commander or captain. They kind of operate differently, right? Which is
Okay.
it, we would like the city to kind of operate universally well in all areas and all departments. We give the East District as an example a lot because we work with them a lot and they're really responsive and they're really great. So we do use them as a model for high standard of policing, but that's not to say that other districts are not as great and don't have great officers, but these are the best practices is what we try to give examples of and what we want to kind of the entire city to elevate to. So just for starters, if you Google Jersey City Police Department or go on Jersey City government page, which is jerseycitynj.gov, and choose the Division of Police, you will see links to each of the districts. If you're not sure which police district do you live in, call the non-emergency police line that I gave you, which is 201-547-5477. Give them your address, ask them which district is responsible for your area, and ask them directly when they redirect you, when is our captain's meeting? When is the next time? Where is it? When is it? Now, before COVID, the captain's meetings would be held usually like in a vicinity or the library area of a public school, like a specific public school, depending on the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And that's where the captain would come with his entire team of community liaison officers, with his XO, which is executive officer, who helps him, and the community liaison officer, who's literally in charge of handling community issues, whatever issues you may have. And it's really great to get to know them and to maintain a relationship with them. It also gives you an idea of what type of issues happen month to month in your area. It's not just you, other people may be struggling too. And that's how you network with your neighbors as well. So that's the first thing that we'd advise you to do, but we will keep track ourselves in this post-COVID world, how different departments function and meet with the community. And first thing that we know, we will bring to you.
Yes, and also before I get out of here, I do want to say that we are committed to getting every single question answered, but we're not in the business of necessarily getting it answered and getting the answer like that. We also want to make sure that we're providing the accurate answer. So in most cases, we will typically get back to you in a week, and 2 weeks is the most, depending on the magnitude of the question, how much research and how much digging we have to do. But we do want to make sure that we're providing the most accurate and up-to-date information. So again, thank everyone for tuning in. Thank everyone for sharing. Wow, this was very good dialogue, man. I'm looking on here, and there's a lot of viewers tuned in on Facebook, Instagram, and even on the Zoom itself, several participants, man. So I'm feeling very, very, very good, if you will. So again, thank you. On that note, your brother Educational Gilmore, and I'm gone. Be great on purpose, people.